Hello and welcome to this week's videocast. This fortnight on the cover we have the future of search, something that affects all our lives. We focus on the biggest company in the space, Google, and what it is doing to change the way we know search today. So you have a bunch of features happening. You have location-based search happening, you have mobile search happening, you have voice search happening, you have advertising changing. Completely a futuristic kind of look at what's coming our way in as less than as a year and a half from now. Let me tell you a few of the cover options that we've worked on this cover. One was this is something that I personally liked. I thought it was clean and elegant and to the point and future of search, and no prices for guessing. The colors in the word search is from the Google colors. Then we worked on something like this, where the concept was that, hey, when Google was opening up the earth, full of information and coming up with solutions that we wanted. And this was yet another option where we worked on, where we kept earth as the center and a ring of search icons around it. And finally, this is what we settled on. This is the issue that you'll see on the stands, and clear, distinct yellow background with somebody opening up the globe as we know it and saying that how Google is going to change your world again. Yet another special that we have in this issue is on best mutual funds. This is a listing that we've been doing for a few years, and we've kind of redone the methodology since last year, and we believe that we have a distinct differentiator with the special. To tell us a little bit more on this, I want to bring on board Alkesh Bhattacharya, our deputy editor. Alkesh, you shepherded this special. Tell us a little bit what is different in this special from what other listings that are there in the market.
So, in best mutual funds, typically the categories that are used to classify funds are based on the size of the fund. So, if a fund handles 60,000 crore, then it would be a large fund. But that large size fund could have different kinds of funds. So, the kind of peer-to-peer comparison is not very apt in that sense. Our categories are based on investor appetite for risk. So, if somebody is young and starting out on a career and has the ability to take some risk because he has a long career ahead and there are opportunities ahead to take some blows, he would want to then go into typically be an aggressive kind of investor. So he would ideally want to look at our category, which says equity aggressive growth.
Okay.
Right. But if somebody is like me, slightly not so young, and tending towards retirement maybe in a decade or so, that person would want to look for either long-term or maybe even conservative. So when you say conservative, you essentially look at balanced funds, hybrid funds, which have a sort of at least 60 to 70% equity, but there's a fair amount of 30 to 40% of debt. You need to evaluate what kind of an investor you are, at what stage in your life you are, and based on that you'll be able to pick which category you should look at.
Okay, thanks Alkesh. The other story that I want to talk to you today about is India's growing gold imports and the impact on the current account deficit. Let me get you across to Sanjeev Shankaran, our senior editor, who can tell you a little bit about this. Sanjeev, tell us about the current account deficit problem and why it is so critical for India at this point in time.
In India's case, or in the case of any country, the difference between their imports and exports represents a deficit. As in the case of India, we import far more than we export. So there's a difference that has to be paid in dollars, and we can't print dollars within India. So that difference is usually made by foreigners giving us money. Now it could be foreigners coming in to invest in Indian shares, could be foreigners buying an Indian company, actually building a new factory here. So what happens is the bigger that deficit grows sometimes, it becomes more and more difficult for India to fund its imports. It doesn't look too bad because we've had a lot of foreigners who have shown interest in buying things in India, partly because the rest of the world is not doing well. I mean, I'm primarily referring to Europe and US.
Okay.
But if that situation begins to change, and with this gap so wide, we'll very soon find ourselves in serious trouble, and that's the problem today.
And one of the problems is that gold imports are rising at record levels for a bit now.
They have been for a while. Now that begs the question, why gold? Because everything else that I've mentioned is something that you consume, which you need to keep your life going, so to speak. In India's case, what's happened is, particularly for poorer people, there's very little organized financial sector that's reached them. I think little less than 60% of Indian households actually have a bank account, and having a bank account by itself is not a big deal. It just means that you have an account, not necessarily that you're making too many transactions, you're getting a loan from the bank.
Right.
So for a lot of people, gold historically has been that one place where even if they have a little bit of money, they can save it. You buy jewelry. When you need the money urgently, you can always pawn the jewelry, use it to meet medical expenses and so on. And so we've seen, other than a lot of poorer people, a lot of people who otherwise might invest in shares and so on have also started looking at gold as a investment option, and that's happened in a very big way, say between 2010 and 2012, because banks got into it. They started selling certified gold biscuits, if you like, or gold coins.
Do you see the situation changing anytime soon?
Not much. I mean, the level might vary a bit, but not much really. Okay. Not in a year.
So in effect, Finance Minister Chidambaram has a limited kind of headroom to play around.
Very limited headroom. And that explains his frequent visits abroad to make sure investors come in.
Okay, right. Thank you, Sanjeev. That's it from the newsroom this time. This is the magazine. It'll be worth your 40 rupees if you spend it on it. Enjoy the magazine. Thanks.